This is Near Enough to Hell, the Ghosts of El Paso story, part 21. We had some discussions off recording, and we'll briefly recap them here just to catch everyone up to speed. So basically, uh, given the siege of El Paso has now been resolved, we are approaching the campaign a little bit differently, more in line with how the new rules for the Between will work, which is to say that in the new version, uh, you enter the mastermind confrontation immediately after the siege, or at least you attempt the mastermind question. So while we don't have like those mechanics in place for like the mastermind question and all that, because of how the new rules for the clues work. What we're doing instead is that we are going to be taking a bit of a interstitial. That's not the right word, is it? Session. So it's a connective session. I don't know, but yeah. But effectively, there will be like a full day night cycle between the conclusion of the Siege of El Paso and the beginning of the mastermind confrontation, just to kind of give our characters a bit of a reprieve and some moments to possibly role play, especially because we are introducing a new character pretty late into the story. But what I have told the players is that whatever is not resolved by the end of this next night phase is off the table for the remainder of the campaign. That will affect the situation in El Paso, most likely just in the state of like the epilogue in the fictional, like, here's how things wind up in certain places. Nothing that will immediately affect the characters. But nonetheless, that will preclude things like taking rewards if they are removed from the table. At the end of this session, because I would like to get through the full day night cycle of this session, at the end of this session, we are going to, as long as we have the time, open a conversation where we're going to review the campaign as it has been thus far to see what we think is going on with the Reynolds and like what their plan is. This is a bit of a thing that even before the new rules, I'm taking from Jason Cordova, which is just like, even though usually it's the keeper's decision about like how certain like elements work in the campaign, every campaign I've ever played with him, he does the little discussion session of like, how do we think this all like shakes out? What do we think's going on here? So we'll probably still do that because I think it's a fun little open table thing. But yeah, that's basically it. So a couple things at the front before we resume with our scenes is we need to talk about a newcomer in El Paso, because last session we saw the death of Mother Ruth Calvo, who had given her life during the siege of El Paso and uh, has been laid to rest. So instead of sitting out the rest of the game, Wes, you've picked a new playbook. Would you mind telling us which playbook you've picked and then introduce them by name, look, and device, as well as their overall deal that you see?
Yeah, hi gang. I've decided the most fun and effective and narratively fulfilling, what makes sense dramaturgically speaking, playbook wise, would be the kid. And I am playing Jackie, the Black Magic Kid, McMahan. Pronouns, he, him. His look is a black suede jacket that's crossed over, kind of like Charlie Prince from 310 to Yuma, but it's black and suede instead of leather and white. And of course, it has fringed tassels on the arms, because of course. He's got a toothy grin that you can see there's a bit of silver. There's not gold teeth, it's silver teeth. And he has juxtaposed on his black boots. He's wearing black clothes all the way down, of course, the Black Magic Kid. But his boots are adorned with entwined gold and silver panther spurs. So somebody like melted down gold and silver and made an alloy and like put it into the shape of a panther and then made spurs out of it. And that's, yeah, it's almost like the fangs or the claws of the panther of the spur part. Yeah, and his vice is close-up magic.
Ah, the Black Magic Kid, I
The Black
see.
Magic Kid. So that's, card tricks, things, with like missing the ball, find the ball, that kind of stuff, flash paper, that kind of thing.
McMahan, that name sounds familiar. What's the kid's deal?
Well, as you could see, I got to mark the character creation. Somebody mark the character creation
Oh, I
box. Fuck,
gotcha.
fuck,
I
fuck.
gotcha. I gotcha. I gotcha.
Thank you. Oh,
No, not
fuck,
that one.
fuck, fuck.
Wait, where is the character creation box?
Oh, it's
Oh,
right
there it
here.
is.
There
Yep.
it is.
Okay. It was
Boop.
tabbed out.
Tabbed out. Perfect. Yeah. So I have been in my older siblings. I've been in my older sibling's shadow for as long as I can remember. I wonder if I'm even a character in the story of their life. But that started to change 6 years ago, because during the Wounded Night, a woman dressed all in gold gave me a pair of exquisite shooting irons, with a hand faster than any mortal alive, and a terrible mission. These three things will surely help me rise above my older sibling. I'm going to bide my time until that day comes. But for now, my sibling's on the Vigilance Committee. And guess what? David, so am I.
Indeed, Jackie McMahan, the sibling of none other than our very own Diamond Dave McMahan. The kid playbook, you have some rules around the whole sibling situation, which we'll talk about here in a moment. You also have your strange guns and your cursed mission, which I guess we'll see if those come up at all during play.
Mm.
But let's talk about your dwelling, because your dwelling is the same as your siblings, as you live with Diamond Dave.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you possess a small cramped part of the Red Rock Cantina and Dance Hall as your personal quarters. What makes it feel like home? What makes its cramped quarters feel intolerable?
I've set up my books that I carry around with me in a trunk to be their own bookshelves by stacking them on top of each other. So I use some of my lesser read books as the shelves, and then I use my book. I put all the more read ones on the books as that bookshelf. But there's just no goddamn privacy in this place. There's always some girl running around without a corset on, flapping her tits all over the place, or there's that damn bartender just all get you anything? I'm reading, goddamn it.
Oh no, why did we let Wes play this character? I'm so excited.
It's all in the
It's
nose.
all in the nose. It's all in the nose. So, with this in mind, what do we think could possibly be found in Jackie's personal quarters? I got one right off the bat. Um, you have a toothpick, and I don't know if it's like just like a normal wooden one or if it's like a metal toothpick. I don't know, but with a toothy grin, I can just
Hmm.
always imagine it perfectly poised there against your lip, and also pretty handy as like a little bit of like a lockpick, like a fiddling around. You know, if you're doing a close up magic kind of thing, you can like pick
Hmm.
the handcuffs and all that. Like,
Hmm.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly, yep,
Hey,
perfect.
in my flashback last time with Diamond Dave, he got from Boss Crump on the riverboat gambling casino. He got a special pair of silver dice. I believe Jackie has those these days.
Did Jackie slip those maybe? Perfect.
Chaotic, did you have one? I
Uh,
don't want to.
yeah, I think just because of like the like large piles of books and whatnot, I think some of the books too come from the McMahon family, showing like genealogy sort of type of things because like I'm noticing the McMahon versus McMahon spelling of the last names, and I think that
No,
that
they're
is
spelled the same way.
oh, I
Oh,
was
on the
looking at
Zoom
the
call,
Zoom
they're
call,
spelled
so
differently. Oh,
I
gotcha,
was I
gotcha.
was going off the Zoom call when I
Okay,
was putting that name in there. Yeah, because I purposely wanted to, instead of McMahon, HONHAN,
yeah,
just
H,
that distinguishing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
mhm.
Gotcha, gotcha. That's funny.
So I think yeah, I think like Dave probably spells it with an O sometimes. Whereas and it probably bothers Jackie because like he knows what the proper spelling.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Perfect. Perfect.
God. Okay, so I was considering a like bespoke set of playing cards, but Daniel just said something in the chat that really tickles me. So I'm gonna do a really mean horse.
Fuck
Your
yeah.
horse is just a little shit. I don't even know if it likes you or not. That's up to you. But
What's its name?
what is its name, Jackie?
Salem.
Awesome.
Nice.
Salem.
I would have called it son of a.
Son of a.
Yeah. Last name bitch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
We do the. I'm going to just go ahead and say to steal from The Witcher. I think that there have been many Salems.
Oh yeah.
I think it is. I
totally.
think it is the same name that is just every horse. It's one of my favorite qualities about Geralt is that his horse is always named Roach,
Yep.
and he compares them all together. I love it. I love it. It's such a funny quirk.
It is.
So
It's
good.
I like it a lot. It's a good characteristic. Yeah. Think. Are you good with those, Wes?
Oh yeah, those are fantastic. Yeah.
Splendid. Let's review what happened last time real quick and to see the state of our hunters, where the Vigilance Committee stands. So last session we did do the siege of El Paso as the Reynolds's plan was put into motion. They demanded the lives of the 3 witnesses to Edward's hanging 12 years ago: Alma Stackpole, Agatha Edwards, and Doc Albers. They gave you until sundown to turn them over, or else they would lay waste to El Paso. You wasted no time in preparing, and once the siege began, it was a big fight to repel the forces, not just of the living outlaws, but the spirits of the dead that were disembarking from the Black Train. And you repelled it successfully. You saved the lives of all 3 members of all 3 witnesses, and even though Mother Ruth, my brain blanked there for a second, even though Mother Ruth lost her life, she did so while actively leading her congregation to repel the attacks, and there were minimal casualties. There are dead, don't get me wrong, there are dead, but nothing significant enough that they count as day players on this show. So therefore, you guys won. You guys pushed them back. But the Reynoldses have gone to ground. They have not been seen since the affair. I think when we resume play, it's been like around a week or so after the siege. El Paso is, rebuilding, putting the pieces back together. Things are largely kind of now under control. Some of there's probably like the tents in the camp yard that was around where the planned rail depot is going to be. It's probably less tattered and looking like a war zone, but the Reynolds have cleared out. Isabel Reynolds' office is in town, cleared out. Like all of the people associated with the Reynolds have not been seen in El Paso since the siege. They are planning something, and it's only a matter of time before they put that plan into action. And you are now kind of at their you're working at their convenience. Like it'll come sooner than later. Looking at our old crew, Graves has a full slate of conditions, an omen of the bright Caracas, and the thing that was Bartholomew Graves, on account of the fact that Graves' home burned down after a visit from war, and many townsfolk saw Graves walking out of the ruin looking supernatural as fuck with glowing eyes. And so there's word spread around town about that. Diamond Dave McMahan still on his best behavior, and that's going to probably even be pushed to the limit a little bit with a new sibling in town. But Diamond Dave basically helped lead a solid defense, kept had offered some shelter to people. Altogether, Diamond Dave's got a good image, and I think honestly you can clear on my best behavior because you've been on really good behavior for several sessions now, and then after your noble deeds during the siege, town of El Paso loves you thoroughly. And then last but not least, our Marshal Andrew Harrington, or should I say Del Sol, because of events that transpired, Andrew Harrington had the option to free Del Sol from the jail, and utilize that to his benefit during the siege of El Paso. We saw a scene where Del Sol literally crawled in through the mouth of Marshal Harrington and has now inhabited his body. What this looks like mechanically is that Andrew Harrington no longer has access to the cellmate move and has 3 conditions. The one who wears the mask, which I believe I said you can clear at a certain point. I don't remember exactly what I said the mechanics were of that, but
I can clear to gain a 12 plus on a roll.
That's right. At which, and just to expound on that a little bit more, at which point I will narrate something that happens with Del Sol. But Andrew Harrington will be back in the driver's seat, to say the least. Or I don't know. I'm letting you interpret this Del Sol situation however you want in the present moment. So whether that looks like if Andrew Harrington is a back passenger or in any way playing a part of it, we'll find out. But nonetheless, like when you clear that, take an automatic 12 plus on a roll, and Del Sol will be released from Harrington in a manner that I decide, that I describe. So that'll be how that shakes out. So with all that said, we have a couple things that trigger during the dawn, but then we'll go right into the day. First things first, and we might explore a little bit of this in the actual day phase, the narrative of the siblings, but the kid does have a move that triggers during the dawn, or at least gets started, which is that rotten kid. So during the dawn phase, if your sibling has not already assigned you a task deliberately or inadvertently, ask them to do so.
David, got any choring need done?
Yeah, man, we're glad to have you back in town, kid. But we're getting together the last, I think, hope for the town of El Paso. And we got to pull this together because I don't know what those riddles are up to. They got magic trains, they've got ghosts, and we have a vigilance committee, as you know. But it's really just me. The other members are either dead or, well, you take a look. Why don't you why don't you see what the good marshal and whatever's left of Graves is up to? Could you do that? Just kind of get to know the rest of the committee or what's left of them.
Gonna walk. You can hear the spurs jingling against the hardwood floor, and look out a window. Like probably red velvet curtains, and just look out and look down the street and go, "Those 2 fruitcakes."
I mean, they Graves used to be our guy, and the marshal, we always had to deal with the marshal, but look at him, just look at him.
Yeah, I'll show him what for. All
Hey,
right, David.
oh, I appreciate it, Jackie, because we're all in this together, and you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen in a few years once we get the train. It's going to be glorious. The McMahan name is going to live on here forever.
Whatever you say, David.
Come on, Jackie, get into it, and don't let them know that you're keeping an eye on them.
Gonna take just a fucking swallow, a gulp of fucking whiskey, and then another one to keep that buzz going, and then push through the doors and head out to the street.
And then we'll cut to the day phase proper. Very exciting, very tasty. Loving that toothy grin, Wes. Very good. Looking good on camera with the hat.
So nasty.
It's so nasty. I love it.
I'm
So,
obsessed.
already obsessed. How dare this character only show up in like the season finale? Like this is, that this is a guest spot that they could only afford for the last 2 episodes, and man, this character deserved longer.
Brought in Walton Goggins.
That's insane. I love the idea of a young Walton Goggins. So we're setting up the day phase. As I mentioned, the threats that are not resolved by the end of this upcoming night phase will then be off the table because we'll begin the mastermind confrontation and takes us into the end game. The threats that we still have left are the grieving town of Clear Springs and the Blue Boy. Now, the grieving town of Clear Springs has 4 clues for it, and it's a complexity 4 question. That one can probably be popped. I will tell you that honestly. The Blue Boy has a threshold question and a question after that, both of which are at complexity 4. It's unlikely, but you might do something daring. I don't know. We'll see. As a reminder, with the state of Clear Springs, since that was largely Mother Ruth's ordeal, the town we decided was bargaining with the river. So when last we poked into this threat, we were trying to determine how it can be stopped from harming the living. And I think that just because of how much time has passed, that like it's a dire situation out there. I think most of all the monks are dead. I think most of the mission is dead. Like there are probably some holdouts, but like Mother Ruth got real sidetracked there at the end, and like it was ignored for a bit. I think that things are bad there, but it hasn't reached quite its like zenith yet. So with that said, let's see what actions or what scenes y'all want to set up for this day phase, what we're interested in doing, and then we'll take a little break and dive right into it. So, Jackie, you're new in town. What do you want to do?
Well, I'm going to go meet my fellow Vigilance Committee members and see if they can point me to what needs done. This town needs a little bit of a cleanup, and you can just call me Mr. Broom.
Incredible. Graves, what about you?
I think I need to maybe finish what Mother Ruth started because I was there. And this is my job. This is my job. I'm death. I have to put these motherfuckers to rest one way or another. So, and if the monks are dead, oh well, they were going to die anyway.
Oh, it's true. Yeah. You did have a little bit of, which I want to talk about this a little bit, but I'll get everyone's actions first about something that happened between now and then. So Graves will go to Clear Springs. Got it. Dave, what about you?
I'm going to put out the word that I really need Thalia Marina, because I'm going to form the Vigilance Committee Illuminati Council.
The secret council of the committee.
Yes.
Oh my
God.
God.
I need Thalia, and then I'm going to try to get Dr. Clarkson. So at least the 2 of those. I want to meet with the 2 of those, but I'll have to roll to get Thalia.
Got you. Oh my God. Oh, I didn't even think about Dr. Clarkson's role in things. Oh, I have ideas right now. And lastly, the man formerly known as Marshal Harrington. What do you do?
Just to put a little bit of a idea out there, I don't think Dr. Clarkson is very happy.
No, I don't think he is at all.
No, I think like for the last how long Del Sol has been lingering, like it's just been very strange. Like the affairs of El Paso, typically, most folks very pull them up by their bootstraps type of thing. So like the marshal here is more concerned with like being a mediator of things when things get out of control. However, people with like the Wounded Knight winding down, things have been a little bit more relaxed as of late. However, I do a stranger that has come into town. That is a mark of some portents, maybe. Who knows? I'm curious.
So you're also interested in Jackie?
Yes.
Very good. All right. Let's take a 5-minute break here. Think about the upcoming day phase and maybe how you want to swing things for the encroaching night, your last true night in El Paso, as it were. Yeah, when we come back, we'll begin. I think I want to begin with this scene we just set up with Jackie, the black magic kid McMahan, stepping out into the streets of El Paso to speak with the Marshal and Graves, whether simultaneously or at different moments. I don't know, but I'll let y'all set up the scene. I quite literally picture the doors of the Red Rock opening, and we just see the Panther spurs on the porch, just like the boot steps, and a pause, and then they step out into the street. Go ahead.
Jackie, as soon as step out into the street, camera pans up with the hat, and looks left, looks right, reaches into the jacket in her pocket, pulls out a tin can and pops it a couple of times, pops the lid off, and grabs a big old fucking scoop of chaw and just puts it in the corner, and then sticks it back in the jacket, and then clicks 2 times, and then starts walking, and then you just see the black horse that's like hitched outside tug the reins, and the reins come undone and start hanging low, and then just starts walking behind Jackie, and says, "It's Salem," and starts walking towards the jail. Yeah, I guess
like the Red Sea around Moses, the people of El Paso part in the wake of Jackie, the Black Magic Kid McMahan, and this mean ass fucking horse. And I feel like you get several untrustworthy like stares that's mixed with like mutterings of like, who is that? You know, people talking, like whispering, and like one person being like, didn't you hear? That's Diamond Dave's younger brother. And being like, that scoundrel? But Diamond Dave is such a respectable man. Just all that sort of conversation happening on the side, whispers that follow in your wake. A few women and men probably set themselves apart from the more suspicious stares with a look of like, oh my God, who is that dark stranger? But you walk through the town and you approach the jail cell or the jail itself. Where is the marshal?
I think the marshal is currently contemplating the cell, just like being a little weirdo looking at it, considering like from the outside, because typically the sort of experience has been within. It's a very simple thing, isn't it?
What's that, Marshal? You look over and Deputy Dudley is like sitting at a little desk, just like looking at like all these like different little correspondences and like bounty letters, and just with an ink pen that's leaked a bit over his own hands. He goes, and he's just been sitting there, and he just looks up as you say that out loud into the cell.
Perhaps nothing at all, but everything at all at once, isn't it? Walls contain people, and sometimes they bring comfort, but other times they are meant to cause a certain type of distress.
Jimmy Pike is at the other end of the room. He probably has a desk of his own now. And while Dudley is pretty deferential, being like, yeah, boss, no, all right. And just continuing with his day and just fumbling around, Jimmy just side eyes you. Just there's something that he can't quite place. Something's wrong, man. Everything about this town has been wrong since he showed up. But his attention is drawn by the sound of someone approaching the door to the jail as a visitor arrives, I assume. Enter Jackie.
Shave and a haircut, and then just open the door. Morning, Marshal. Morning, Deputy. Morning. Ranger.
There's not even a fucking spittoon in here. It is just Deputy Wainwright's tin coffee cup.
Jesus
He
Christ.
just looks down at it a little dejected.
Figured I'd mosey on over here and, well, tell you the good news. I know that fiery old cuss of yours on the Vigilance Committee ate it a couple of nights ago. Well, the people figured if they're going to have a replacement on this here committee of yours, might as well be somebody that can match that energy. David saw fit to bring me on board. Well, here I am.
Ah. You a certain moment of portents of you just rolling in like a tumbleweed across the plains into town. I wonder, do you intend to spread your seed like the tumbleweed, or do you intend to just pass on through, making nothing importance here?
Oh, Marshall, I don't tumble into towns. I slink right on in like a cat. But don't worry, and I'm going to move the jacket aside, and you can see that there's like silver bullets lined up next to Salvation. I'm quite the gardener if you need some seeds planted.
Jimmy Pike, who's been, just sitting in the background, just very casually lifts his revolver out of his holster, sets it on the desk, and just cocks the hammer back as you reveal your gun and bullets, and just has it sitting there on the desk, pointing at you.
Well, Jackie, I'm not one to kiss and tell, but you seem to be having a little bit of a flirtatious relationship with someone who really is a little bit on the nastier side, if I say so. I wonder how this game will play out.
Jackie, the Marshal's words are a little tinny against your eardrum on account of the fact that your eyes have not left Jimmy Pike's revolver since he pulled it out and set it on his desk to meet your veiled threat, because in the back of your mind, you remember the Lady in Gold's instructions to shoot and kill any rival who challenges you. I am invoking the fact that Jimmy Pike counts as a rival, which means that you must decide during the dusk phase whether if you accept their air quote challenge and shoot to kill during the dusk, because he pulled a gun on you, and I think that counts as a challenge to some degree.
I'm going to move my other hand and show my other gun, Damnation, and then move my hands like it's just a resting arm gesture. I'm going to say, no worries, Marshall, not leaving Jimmy Pike's eyes. No worries, Marshall. God gave me two hands, and they're capable of doing quite a bit of work. And they're mighty fast, too. Much faster than your Texas stud back there.
I think Jimmy Pike cuts in being like, you want to find that out for sure, kid?
You drawing the black magic kid, stud? You best not miss. Dusk, Red Rock. Bring something a little bit more handier. You're gonna need it.
Jimmy's eyes flick over to the Marshal and back at you. Deputy Wainwright is like looking between everyone. Like, what the hell?
I think like at this sort of challenge, I think the Marshal looks a little bit disappointed.
You see that Jimmy Pike just like draws back the hammer on his revolver and slots it back into his holster, leaning into his chair. He just says, "You want to draw against a Texas Ranger? I faced, frankly, shit scarier than you."
Mm.
Marshall, I'm gonna go find that card shark of yours and see if we can gussy ourselves on up to Clear Springs. Seems like that lady of yours left a mess up there and, well, need somebody to clean it up. I'll be seeing you at dusk, stud.
Ting.
Yeah.
And you stride out. Jimmy Pike looks over at you, Marshall, and he says, "Well, I'll give him credit. He's a real son of a bitch like his brother. At least Dave has the decency to hide it behind a smile."
Yes, but I think you made a bit of a wrong choice.
Come on. Marshall, you think that kid is worth the actual salt he's spilling on the ground there?
Oh, I wasn't paying attention to him, but rather the one that was standing behind him.
Gives you a queer look, like he doesn't know what you're talking about and is a little disconcerted, but he doesn't say anything more.
Mm-hmm.
And we cut away. Diamond Dave over at the Red Rock Cantina and Dance Hall, because I did want to talk about this and I saw it prompted in the chat. So since it has been time since the siege of El Paso, we assume Mother Ruth has had a funeral and a memorial in some way. The funny thing is, honestly, Graves and Del Sol do not strike me as people who would they have their own stuff going on. They would not show up to these things. So I think honestly, it's mostly off camera. But I saw in the chat that you suggested that you could have done a memorial at the dance hall because that would have been wildly inappropriate, and I kind of love that. So it's like, what are the vestiges of the memorial for the dearly departed Mother Ruth Calvo that are behind here?
There's an alcove. It's got candles. I don't know what was there. I think probably there before was like a Texas Longhorn skull or something. They took that out and they put up some drapes and things, and they put a picture of several pictures. One is of Mother Ruth, but then there's some other pictures of other people, and in hand cut out letters out of some fancy paper. It says Red Rock Remembrance Society. And you can see there's candles and things and um notes and stuff. And the inappropriate piece is by accident, a garter belt is now in there.
Let's just kind of make this a paint the scene. Everyone can contribute, honestly.
I think just by necessity of the recommendation of my fellow deputies, Del Sol did eventually show up, like, I think 4 days later, to this little thing. Probably took out a photo of Mother Ruth and placed it like on the sort of shrine. I think, however, like this little like photo compartment probably contains like other photos of just random people that Marshal Harrington cares about, and just left it all there. So it was a little bit weird, not gonna lie, but it's thoughtful, question mark, of Del Sol.
Oh my God. I love that. I think Graves at some point showed up to this because it never gets to see the aftermath of itself. And also, has never had a human die that they knew, question mark. It's weird. It's a weird thing, and it's not really enjoying any of this sort of human bullshit that's happening, but does go up to this like thing and sees that one of the girls has like, or maybe the bartender, he's not sure, but has left like a glass of like whiskey, like on like an altar offering almost. And it's like, all right, good enough. And then leaves.
Love
A
it.
tip jar. It could also be there. Listen. Also a tip jar, Daniel. Daniel, also a tip jar.
I think Jackie walks by it when leaving the cantina and stops and looks at it and just like looks over, and we see just like there's like Bibles and like hymnals and things, but then there's also like bottles of liquor and like a flower vase with tulips. And Jackie's just gonna look over all of this in the photo and everything, the tip jar, saying, "It's the fucking weirdest old lady." And then it's just gonna like have like a card pop up from the sleeve, and then just leave it. And it's the Queen of Hearts.
Ooh, very good. I love it. Now, Dave, you are sitting, waiting, checking a pocket watch perhaps, because you'd put out word to an associate from your old life, one Thalia Morena. Last you heard, she was maybe in Las Cruces. So maybe you put out word you're going to hope she shows up on time. We're going to use your move here. Have you met my associate? Roll with presence.
I was double checking my items. I got nothing, but I still have a. Oh, I have a question about mask.
Yes.
Since we've lost Mother Ruth, does that mean that Most Beloved is back on the table?
That's a great question.
I notice it's unchecked now.
Yeah, I often ruled that once like like the person marked Gilded Door is off, like been killed or somehow removed Most Beloved, then it
I just
becomes
realized
available
that,
to
yeah,
edit.
no, well, because the Gilded Door was unchecked.
Yeah, I unchecked it because I was under the assumption that when the Most Beloved gets, because nobody else marked it, and
Mhm.
so the Most
mm,
Beloved's been taken off the table, and so that means that opens back up for
that's
people.
true. Then I will say yes.
Just wondering.
Okay.
So I'm gonna do a flat roll with +1,
Okay.
but I really need this to happen, so I may use a mask.
I wonder which mask.
Well, I got a 7 and 8. I think I'm still gonna do it
Okay.
so that I can get her here.
Use it
Otherwise,
before. Yeah, use it. Yeah.
so I'm still gonna mark it, and I think I am gonna go ahead and mark um, Most Beloved
Okay.
to the
Diamond
door.
Dave marks the Gilded Door. Take Most Beloved. The other hunters can no longer choose the Gilded Door.
I love it.
It's, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, very, very fitting, especially when we set up the fact that the town probably really loves Diamond Dave. So in that case, on a 10 plus, they show up right away and do as you wish. So, when Thalia shows up, can you describe her entrance and tell us a little bit about her, especially what your, like what she does, what she is to you?
And I'm gonna, if it's okay, can I go ahead and say she shows up with Dr. Clarkson?
Yeah, I absolutely think that's fine. Yeah.
I, I don't know about Lady Antonia.
Uh, I'll have her show up. Yeah.
Okay, so they may not know they probably don't know each other. Yeah, I guess everybody knows Dr. Clarkson, so never mind. Um, let me tell you, she is. Let me scroll down. She is actually quite beautiful. She has very long black hair, and she wears this white blouse with this the black skirt has like a black on dark gray floral pattern, and she seems like I think she's older. and she is known throughout the area as a broker of secrets. And Dr. Clarkson, who's coming in not too right after her, is wearing his Dr. Clarkson top hat and gray suit and all that. And then we see Lady Antonia come in with the sparkle of her medallion or her ankh. Uh, and Diamond Dave is like, this way.
Where do you take them?
I think I'm probably backstage,
Mhm.
where like backstage where like musicians and stuff set up. And I've got that bouncer stretch keeping everybody away from us so we can have some privacy.
I think as you're like walking in, there's a little bit of conversation between your guests. This is Doc Clarkson, who, by the way, despite being dapper as ever, clearly has a bit of a grumpus expression going on. Very clearly not in the best of moods, but still speaks with that very same chipper salesman like cadence as he's like, Miss Morena, I have to say that I did not get the chance to thank you for your discussion when I previously rolled through Las Cruces. I have to say that indeed things have taken a turn since my arrival in El Paso, but I think fondly on our time together a few months back. And Thalia just kind of like snorts a little bit and rolls her eyes. And she says something to the effect of like, well, I figured if you were going to curse one town, it might as well be El Paso. You can thank me for the lead another time in a more proper fashion. And Thalia will sit down and say, David, I come all the way down here to meet you, people I thought were out of the game entirely. And what? Having a nice little meeting back here? Did you even think to bring drinks or even food? She says this all playfully, not actually.
We got canned peaches opening right now. So
I think Lady Antonia, who's just sitting there, looks at a can of peaches and just goes, "My, how rustic."
don't eat them out of the can. We've got bowls coming and fancy spoons and everything. But we're not here for food, folks. Although we have plenty here at the Red Rock Cantina. Instead, what we're here for is the second meeting of the Red Rock Memorial Society.
A second meeting. I must have missed the first.
Well, we invited you, but
Well, I was busy.
we don't keep minutes, and we don't mess around with all the formalities. But what we do mess around with is the threat that the Reynolds bring to El Paso, and we're trying to get as much information about this ghost train, where it goes, where it's at right now, and what might be their ultimate designs on our fair city.
Yes, despite Mr. McMahon's more eccentric overtures, I do have to admit that this is a most pressing situation. And while I was privy to the first official meeting of this society, I did not exactly anticipate it to be more than just a little memorial service. This, however, such a gathering is far more my speed. So, David, what are you intending that individuals such as ourselves get to do with it? You are a member of El Paso's Vigilance Committee. Am I to believe that you do not see your associates up to the task?
Well, sure. They're defending El Paso against the Wounded Knight. The the Reynolds is a totally different, altogether destructive force that we're going to have to deal with.
Hmm.
And the Vigilance Committee may help us out if there's still any functioning. But what I'm proposing is what we're all doing is we're all holding our cards pretty close to our chest as we play this game. But I'm proposing we stop that and we give up the information that we have, and then possibly we can find some way forward against united against the Reynolds. And I'll start off. Um, Well, I've had dealings with the Reynolds, in a close relationship with Mrs. Reynolds, for several years now, and I am the one who helped um, set up the railhead and draw up the city plans, and I found some very strange irregularities.
What manner of irregularities, if you don't mind my asking?
The biggest one being, I don't think they're really bringing a train. None of the
No,
materials,
whatever gave you that impression, Dave?
none of the materials seem like they were serious about bringing in a train. The buildings, the office, it's all a ruse, which I planned, to be totally honest, which I plan to use anyways for an actual railhead to open up trade between us and Mexico and the rest of Texas.
I think everyone's looking at everyone here, and there's a moment of silence as you finish your speech. And Antonia just stands slightly and just says, "I want to make sure that I am seeing this picture correctly. You want to form a sort of supplemental society, an oversight committee, if you will, to the actions of the Vigilance Committee, something to deal with a bit more of the pressing threats at hand. And yet, your go-to selections for this formal meeting, which you yourself have expressed, is of a rather disorganized state, involves the owner of a local watering hole and entertainment venue of the bawdy variety, a charlatan, and a broker of secrets, which I admit to your credit, Miss Morena, I have followed your work since my time in the West. I am a fan. But nonetheless, this is a little, what's the word you use out here? Slapdash?
Diamond Dave is like, yeah, this is Texas. Come on, I told you. Sometimes we get like a frontiersman that throws tomahawks. Whatever we can get out here. A guy that can lasso the moon, whatever. That gets the job done.
I do hate to give Dave credit for his thoughts here, Lady Hargrave Steele, but to his credit, what could possibly be more American than the absolute assemblage of inconvenient parts?
Let's get some work done.
Gentlemen, Miss Morena, I have a long background in this sort of work. I have an organization of my own in London that engages in the, well, ostensibly, the protection of the crown, but more true to that, the securing and keeping of objects of power. This matter of the Black Train and this wounded knight is, of course, familiar to me, as I was drawn out here not only for the corset, but this matter in general. I admit to having a numerous resources at my beck and call, many contacts, and my own knowledge is sizable beyond my years. And I hate to sound like, well, like a right and proper bitch by saying this, but why exactly should I give a damn? Why should I cooperate with amateurs?
Yeah. Um, you know, it's not our first rodeo, as they say, here in the great state of Texas. So I don't know what you've heard, but we've got our own resume uh, of things that we have accomplished outside of pouring a pint of beer.
She regards the moment for a while. Clearly, the gears are turning in her head. Everyone sits in a slightly uncomfortable silence. Dr. Clarkson just looks a little miserable, just flicking his eyes around. Thalia is very keenly watching Lady Antonia, and Lady Antonia settles her eyes on you. Let's say I agree to participate. What is your first order of business?
I thought you'd never ask.
And we'll cut the scene there. I like the idea, and correct me if you have a better one. I like the idea of Graves is heading along the road south to Clear Springs when Jackie catches up to him.
Obsessed.
Having
yes.
like learned that Graves headed out of town. So it's like maybe on Salem. I don't know. If
That's
y'all
so
like
fun.
that, you can play the scene out from there.
I don't know about you, Wes, but I fucking love that.
Well, given that Wes is pantomiming riding a horse.
Pantomiming riding a horse.
Yeah.
I saw you. I saw your shit.
I like that profile shot of you just walking around the road, and then it starts pulling back a little bit, and then you can just see Jackie pulling up closer, inching up closer and closer. About 10 feet away from you, goes, "Hey, card shark, don't draw on me. I'm coming up on your right."
Do you need something?
I need you, card shark.
For what?
Well, seeing how you and Narr are now newly associated members of the Vigilance Committee, you being a senior member and me being a newly inducted member, I figured this would be a great opportunity for a training exercise.
I'm not here to teach anybody, Mr. McMahan.
Lucky for you, I learned just by watching.
What do you actually want?
My brother, David, told me that there's a town up over yonder that the good old lady Calvo was taking care of. Heard that you were making your way over yonder. Heard there was quite a mess over there. Figured more hands makes less work. And seeing how my hands were idle hands are the devil's work. And I'm trying to live in the path of righteousness. Card shark.
I know a lot of people who try to live in the path of righteousness. People in Clear Springs did. I don't think it helped them. I don't think it's going to help you.
Tell me.
Mm.
If you don't think it's going to help them and it's not going to help me, then what the fuck are you doing heading up there now? Seems a bit futile, doesn't it? Just a waste of time? Are you out here clearing your head? You can talk to Jackie. And Jackie like pulls up right alongside and is not even holding the reins of Salem. And pulls out like a rose out from nowhere, and then hands it over to Graves. For you.
And the entire time, Graves has not been looking up at you really, but more side-eyeing you. And finally, like, I imagine he's not like an exceptionally tall person. And so I imagine finally like craning up to look at you and takes it and doesn't look at it.
Thank Christ, because if I wasn't holding the reins any second longer, Salem here was going to get real ornery. Grabs the reins real quick. He likes to know I got a hand on him. Keeps him calm.
I'm sure. That's what I'm here to do. I don't care about righteousness. I'm just here to calm things down in Clear Springs and set them right. Do you think you can handle that?
They don't call me the Black Magic Kid for nothing, Card Shark. Lead the way.
Sounds like we triggered the vulnerable move in that scene.
I think we did.
I noticed someone did some close-up magic.
Yeah.
Graves, you can clear one of your 2 conditions if you'd like. You don't have to, but it gets triggered. And let's have y'all think on like a clue that y'all get from that scene. So like think on it for a minute. We'll come back to you. And think on what condition you might want to clear, if any, or none. Marshall, I know that your daytime activities were involving Jackie McMahan because you're interested in this newcomer. Does such an activity involve doing things while he's not in town, or will you take some different course of action throughout the day?
I think I'm going to follow up with Jackie's brother,
You're going to go to Dave.
Dave. Yes, because
Ooh.
because it seems as though Dave invited Jackie into town. So either at least that's not the presumption of Dilsel. He doesn't
I
know
like it.
everything.
I think Daniel, if you like the idea for this scene, the marshal shows up as your meeting is wrapping up. So like you had this full meeting, some of which we saw on camera, but most of it we didn't. And it's like, you know, people go their own separate ways. Maybe some of them are still lingering around, but like the marshal shows up for you. If that sounds good to you, role play.
Hello, David.
Diamond Dave to my friends.
Are we friends? I'm not sure.
Why would you ask? Why would you come in here to ask me that? You want some peaches?
I think like that's Dilsel.
The girls are gonna eat them. The girls are gonna eat them if you don't. You know.
Yeah, I think Dilsel like picks up like a peach slice that it's canned stuff. So like he just takes it and just starts munching on it.
That seems like something Harrington would do anyway.
Slurping it up. Real uncomfortable close-ups of just like the sugary syrup juice dribbling along his lips and chin, like Denethor biting into a cherry or tomato.
We have plenty of those stocked up on peaches.
But I've met your brother.
Yeah, he comes into town every once in a while. He's
Does he though?
yeah, yes. He's a bit of a loose cannon, but you just gotta know where to aim him. See how I used the metaphor there twice?
But this seems to be more that you are pulling the cannon out of the artillery shed rather than it just happened to be there.
Well, yeah, we gotta pull in all of our defenses. We gotta circle the wagons. We gotta get things ready because we don't know what those Reynolds are up to. I doubt very seriously that they're gone, even though we can't find Bird or anybody at their office. They're coming back. We gotta be ready for them, Marshal.
Of course, David.
What?
We have to be ready.
Yes. You got the law enforcement. You got extra deputies. It's looking really good there. I've pulled in a lot of folks that have a lot of information about ghosts and curses and cursed items and objects of power. We got to do what we got to do.
Yes, and it's
Speaking of which, what did you ever do with the corset?
Oh. Well, since I did hear that you were having a little bit of a meeting with like people who have information about such cursed objects, I did bring it with me.
Is it visible?
Probably it's like the soul like has a little bit of bag, so like because it's a little bit awkward to just carry a corset under your arm. Like Del Sol isn't stupid.
Did you tame it or force it to your will, Marshall? How did you how did you like contain the demonic spirits that lie within?
Oh, we just had a friendly little conversation.
In his mind, Diamond
And
Davis. In his mind, Diamond Davis thinking, I don't know if Del Sol can read minds, but in his mind, Diamond Davis thinking, this is exactly why I did not invite Harrington to the meeting.
oh, and please, David, use my first name.
I don't even know what your first name is, Marshall. I thought it was Marshall. That's a
You
joke
do.
there. I know it's not Marshall. I know that's a position that you have. But Harrington, I don't know what your name is other than Marshall Harrington.
Mm.
What is your God-given name?
Mm. You do know it in the bottom of your hearts, but we'll play for a little games for now.
Stephen.
Mm.
Stephen Harrington.
Hmm. You haven't realized. Oh, I thought you were a little bit more observant than that, David. I guess I was wrong on that matter.
Did you get a new
But
haircut? Is that what it is?
Mr. McMahan keeps his eyes on an entirely different prize. Lady
Mm.
Antonia voice comes from behind you.
Jump scare.
Mhm.
Marshall.
That, well, David has been stepping around the certain topics and whatnot, trying to avoid talking about his brother. I did come
Yes.
here for a second purpose because I know what you want, partially. Because David brought up the corset more or less about his own desire for it, but rather more about your desire for it. Hmm? That's why you come all the way here over to America, hunting it down.
Yes, and thus far, I have been quite satisfied with the efforts of the Vigilance Committee in containing said matter. They did handle it quite deftly. To my own chagrin, I was rather short-sighted on that affair. I've recently just wrapped up a lovely conversation with Mr. McMahan about the continued partnership between my expertise and the efforts of the Vigilance Committee. I have been assuaged of any doubts.
Mhm. Oh, but you still have desire for the corsets?
Insofar as I have a desire to see any object of power adequately handled and kept out of hands that would abuse them to harm others.
Oh, well, I suppose there is a couple of objects of power, as you refer to them. I would more refer to them as conceptual ideas manifest, but some wandered into town today.
I think Lady Antonia gives the a faint side eye to Dave McMahan that you probably don't see, Dave, but like we see it. Like she flicks her eyes as if to suggest, oh, she didn't know that, and she's kind of like now. So you can see that the gears in her head turn. That she's going to need to keep a closer eye on Jackie than she intended.
Yes, David, as already been ascertained, is not the most observant person in the world, unfortunately.
Well, I heard that.
I intended for you to hear that. As I said before, are we friends?
My next question to you is, are you intoxicated?
Oh, no. Maybe.
Well,
Just
then we're
with.
pals.
Hmm.
You and me, Marshall, and the rest of this town, we're gonna make it happen.
Mhm.
We just gotta
Hmm.
we just gotta stay steady, keep our eye on the prize, And this will be a boom. This will be a boom town within 10 years.
That reminds me, Marshal. I've wanted to confer with you for some time. Now that my business here with Mr. McMahan is concluded, would you join me at my hotel to discuss a rather private matter?
Yes.
If you're starting another side committee, Godspeed.
Your penchant for discretion is astounding, Mr. McMahan.
Yes. I've been aware of this plan, but for a while now, David doesn't see the much matter in keeping secrets, even to his benefit. However, I don't think much will come out of this.
Indeed. Well,
unfortunately,
as much as I'm enjoying all of this foreplay, gentlemen, Marshal, would you care to escort me back to my hotel?
Yes, I think we can have a much more beneficial conversation there.
Let's take a quick 5. All right, so we're going to kind of go through here and do a little bit of wrap up on these day phase scenes before we dive into our night. I wanted to check in with Jackie and Graves about what clue y'all had stumbled onto during this vulnerable scene, and then we'll talk about your arrival in Clear Springs, most of which will largely involve the night, but I wanted to see at least the start of it.
Wes, did you have one? A clue? Because if not, I have something. But I'm not married to anything.
Go ahead and lay it down. I've been sleazing around this entire session. Go ahead and give us something.
A bloody rosary on the way.
Ooh. Bloody rosary on the road to Clear Springs. That's fun. I like that. All right, you can add it to the list. When you arrive in Clear Springs, a dead animal floats in the river along its course. The town is largely the same, though you can tell from a distance that the Socorro mission has begun to succumb to the rest of this place's fate. In what subtle ways has the river exerted more of its influence across the town?
This area is turned into almost like an annihilation, like marshland, almost like a spectral marshland in of its way. Like even the flora looks ghastly.
I think that on the side of the mission, you can see watermarks like way too high, almost like there was just this great flood over and over again. It's probably still wet if you touch it.
I think with just how things are been rising to higher and higher ground, I think there are caskets floating in the water.
Circling overhead are lots of vultures. Not 2 or 3, but close to 20 to 30.
Now, in detail that you might note, though this is probably more of interest to Graves than Jackie, which is that people are still milling about, the Clear Spring citizens inhabiting the bodies of the dead. There's been a bit of a population surge lately. There are more people here. Many of them, if not all, were killed during the siege of El Paso. And I wanted to check, by the way, Graves, to see which, if any, of your conditions you cleared.
You know what? We're really close to the end of this game. I'm not clearing a fucking condition. Nah.
None of the people in this town are working or going about their day, actually. They're all standing there amidst the dilapidated rubble and ruin of this now marshy town. Silent, sentry-like, every single one of them is directly facing you two as you approach the town. And in unison, they are all just pointing at graves. You're muted, Wes.
Jackie's put the metal toothpick corner of his mouth, and he's gonna move his coat aside, his jacket aside, showing salvation and damnation, and is gonna start loading them each, and goes, "I figured it was gonna be like this, Card Shark."
Put your guns away, Mr. McMahan.
What, you're soft on plugging a couple of monks? After the Spanish Inquisition, they have it coming to them.
While I agree with you, I don't think that this is the solution to our problem. I told you, we're not here for righteousness. We're here to clear things up. And these people will not be saved by your bullets.
My bullets are the healing kind. Card Shark, you go ahead and do your little river dance. I'll do some poking around, but I tell you, one of these pruny fucks gets their fingers on me, I'm plugging them. I'm plugging them until they're nailed to the ground.
That's all you'll be able to do, Mr. McMahan. They'll still be here. Graves just walks towards the mission, away from Jackie, not a second look.
I wonder if this is where we cap off your day phase.
So, I think so.
Then the last thing we'll do before moving into the dusk, Marshall, you walk back with Lady Antonia to the Maxwell Hotel, where she has you walk up with her to her door and enter her luxurious suite. The room is crowded with a vast assortment of luggage shipped over from London. Trunks, valises, crates, hat boxes. She just says, feel free to make yourself comfortable for a moment. Can I get you a spot of tea, Marshall?
If it would make you happy.
I shall have it ordered. I find that the Maxwell is the only hotel in this town that knows how to make a proper cuppa. So, how are you feeling, Marshall? She's like, just like, her back is to you as she's just like sorting through some various things around her.
Are you going to continue to pretend that you do not recognize me?
She stops sorting through various things and just stands upright and still. Her back is still to you. And she says, no, I suppose not.
Mm-hmm.
Still squatting, are we?
Squatting, more like I've been counseling.
Your counsel has been useful at times, but it is nonetheless tainted.
Is it now?
You are an incomplete, imperfect thing, a fragment of a whole. You are flawed.
A real shame, I suppose. But I would also say that I am a cog in a machine that grinds its gears because the sand of humanity gets itself wrapped up in all sorts of places.
Indeed. The funny thing about being spread so thin in so many different places that you tend to leave easily markable footprints. She turns around and she's holding like a little bit of like a hat box that she's opened. And she reaches into it and pulls out a sun mask. And she holds it in front of her and she says, I banish thee from this host. Vacate immediately. I invoke the power of thy mask. It's the night move. What are you afraid of happening here? Unless you willingly choose to let this happen.
I'm afraid that when Del Sol goes, Andrew Harrington will also go.
Oh, okay. It's worse than that. How? I don't think it is worse than that, actually. I think that is effectively it. So I'll let you know. This roll will be made with disadvantage. I thought about being mean and saying double disadvantage because of the unique conditions of the move here, but I think the regular disadvantage is fine. It'll be with sensitivity. If you back down, that just looks like you willingly allow this to happen as a player, which means Harrington won't be whisked away. But you will lose the benefits of that, like the one who wears the mask thing. I might replace it with like a condition, but like you can choose to voluntarily let it go or try and rattle against the cage and hold on to it longer.
Oh, yeah. I have a really fucked up idea when Del Sol leaves. So like I am going to back down.
Okay. I have narrative control over what happens to Del Sol, but in that case, I do want you to describe what it looks like when Harrington is restored to his faculties. I will say that on the Del Sol front, there is no physical emergence of Del Sol, but there is like a sense of like power or essence that vacates the body. I'll let you kind of describe that, since you said like you had an idea for what was happening to Harrington.
Again, there is this sort of disappointed look that Del Sol was very relaxed, but disappointed in like seeing this sun mask, and then just sort of like as sort of an exhale of power out into the room, a very quiet snuffing of a flame, as it were. There is a look of bewilderment that quickly turns into anger. What did you do?
She looks at the mask. She looks at you. She says, I have let Prometheus regrow his liver.
You don't know. You don't know what you're playing with.
On the contrary, Andrew Harrington, I know exactly what I'm playing with. I am indeed the only one in this entire country, perhaps this entire world, who knows what they're playing with. You, on the other hand, are an insolent child who has suffered nonetheless under the delusions that he has control over his own fate. grow up and get out of my room.
I think I'm gonna pull a gun on her. I'm not gonna lie.
I love it. By the way, you can clear the one who wears the mask, and you'll instead just take the condition empty.
Mm-hmm.
You pull a gun on Lady Antonia.
Yeah.
She doesn't balk at it. In what way, Marshal Harrington, would shooting me solve any of your problems?
It wouldn't cause any, and it would make me feel better.
Hmm. She doesn't say more than just a simple sound.
I think I'm just gonna shoot her.
It's the day move. What are you afraid of happening here?
She doesn't die, or at least like the bullet doesn't harm her.
Go ahead and roll. You'll have disadvantage from being empty. It'll be with composure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I will roll. Harrington needs to learn his lesson. So that's 3 plus 2. That's a 5.
Okay. The shot goes off, and actually, yeah, no, I feel like the shot does go off. We hear the gunshot, and she moves with like extremely deft agility. Like you actually see like your shot land, but it just grazes like her upper arm, like as she just quickly like leaps to the side. And despite being in an extremely elegant and aristocratic dress, she moves like a fucking dancer, like a professional sword fighter, and she just jukes off to the side, like lunges forward, and with just like almost like ballerina like grace, grips your shooting wrist, and with one hand, the other one goes to the throat to slam you up against like the windowsill of her apartment, and positions your wrist in just such a way that it's like around like the bend of where the window meets the wall, where and then she just exerts just enough force to snap your wrist and drop your gun. And you just feel the jolt of pain as she just squeezes your throat ever so slightly. And she pins you down there, and she looks you in the eyes, and she says, I have contended with far more terrifying beasts than anything you can conjure. Know your place, or I'll put you down like a dog in the street. You can take the condition broken wrist. But other than that, though, you will be... And she takes your gun from you. And also I think we'll just walk up to you and snatch the marshal's badge off of your chest.
Damn. My kin do not get to grow up. You do not want to see that. But I suppose I must. You'll regret it. All of El Paso will regret this moment.
And I think we'll cut the day phase there. Damn. As you leave, it's time for the dusk, ladies and germs. So first of all, Diamond Dave, as you had mentioned off recording, yes, you get you're going to choose one of your dusk phase benefits from the saloon.
Yes, I think throughout the day I've learned something about the grieving town of Clear Springs, and so I may ask the keeper any question that I like, and the keeper will answer truthfully and completely, or in the form of a clue, your choice.
What is the question you'd like to ask?
So my question is, um, can my brother with his and I can't remember, do I know that he has those fancy guns?
I think that's up to Wes.
Would he know?
You've seen them. I don't
I've had
think
them
you
for 6
probably know the
years.
story behind them. I've had them. Yeah, I've
Okay,
like
so I probably know that they've got some trick to them.
there's
So my
something weird
question is,
going on with them.
do I think that my brother with his fancy guns and his sleight of hand tricks, do I think he's any? Is there? I'm trying to say, is he any kind of trouble? Did I send him? Am I going to get in trouble with mom and dad,
Hmm.
or do I think he
Oh,
can handle it?
oh, that's a good question. Let's see here. You know what I think? I'm not going to necessarily answer this question directly. I think this question is prompted by the clue I'm giving you. So I'm going to answer with a clue, but I like the narrative of you're asking yourself this question because of what of this clue. It's
Oh,
because you, and this is the clue for Clear Springs. You had a dream actually prior to this, that a dream of Jackie buried deep in the soil of Clear Springs beneath the grapes on their trellises. Like this ominous dream that now has you question, can he handle this? But that is the clue, a dream of Jackie McMahan buried deep in the soil beneath the grapes on their trellises.
he'll be okay, right? I tell Marcus he'll be okay, right, Marcus?
Now, during the dusk phase, Jackie, we have to talk about the state of your rival. Now, the way that this move is worded has in no way the implication of like, being away from El Paso has a bearing here. I think it's fine enough to say, because like, how far away is Clear Springs? It's like a few miles, right? Like,
I think it's like 10 or 15. It's not crazy.
yeah, it's not crazy. And
You
you have
got
a
a
fucking
horse.
horse. So I was about to say, like, it's entirely reasonable that like you could ride back to El Paso for the appointment. Let's read the move here. So you must decide during the next dusk phase whether you accept their challenge. If you do, you will kill them. And then there's stuff relating to that. If you decide not to kill them, cross this move off your sheet and tell the keeper to put that filthy rival in play.
I, if you don't mind, Alex, I would
Mm.
also say that it could have already happened
That's true.
as a
That's
flashback.
true. It could also be in flashback prior to writing up. That's actually a very good point. So either one works. But first, we'll defer to Jackie about this, about what you're doing.
Jackie like sees Graves. Jackie's gonna walk the perimeter and be like, look back over, and probably from Clear Springs, because the springs flow into the river downwards. You can probably see El Paso down the
Mhm.
hill, and looks back over towards Graves, walks off, and goes, son of a bitch, and then walk over to Salem and hop on, and is going to ride into town, and then ride right into the middle and trot along and have Salem like do a slow like trot down the center of town, and then is going to pull not one of the Schofields, but just a separate. You notice that like Jackie does not pull these. Pulls a separate revolver and fires it in the center of the center of town, probably scattering people, and goes, Stud, stud, come out and get your punishment, stud. I'm making a scene.
Okay. You are going to kill Jimmy Pike. You're muted. All right. You need to choose whether you use damnation or salvation. This is a reminder that you have these two Schofields. One is black as night with a dark horned handle, damnation. One is a silvery chrome with a pearled handle, salvation. Which one do you kill Jimmy Pike with?
Jackie is going to get off of Salem and just unbutton the jacket again, letting the guns loose, letting them kind of like out in like the twilight, the setting sun. He's gonna say, Texas Ranger Jimmy Pike, I'm calling on you to step forward to answer for your crime for drawing on a member of the Vigilance Committee of El Paso. If there is anyone questioning this crime, they may defer to the Marshal Andrew Harrington or the deputy, whatever the fuck his name is, to ask if or if not that son of a bitch drew on me. I'm here answering your call, Jimmy. Come on down. and it's just gonna sit right in the middle of this town square. I think we see Jimmy walk out from the jail, and like with his like Winchester like repeating rifle, and then walks and just leans that against a hitching post and walks up, squares up, paces, profile shot, flying across. There are people in the square. Do you or do you not deny drawing on a member of the Vigilance Committee of El Paso?
Only in response to you acting like a chicken shit, threatening the marshal of the town.
And then Jackie's gonna do something really dirty. Jackie's gonna have his hands out, ready in the shooting position. And then he's gonna use a bit of flash paper in his left hand to make it think that there's a shot going off and to have Jimmy draw. And then Jackie's gonna fall backwards and draw salvation, and we see in slow motion and fire salvation, and the bullet rockets out. And while Jimmy is drawing and firing, the shot goes right over and like hits uh Jackie's hat. And there's just like almost it's this picturesque moment where it stops. Like if there was a photo set up and they took a tintype photo, this would be in like one of the Jackie Graves, like in the Wild West Encyclopedia books about Jackie Graves as an outlaw or a gunslinger. And it's just like this moment frozen in time. And then Jackie falls backwards. You saw it. Son of a bitch drew on me. Stand up and is gonna dust himself off and walk over. And you see Jimmy is just gurgling. He shot him right in the lungs. He's gurgling and he's gonna kneel down. And in Spanish, he's gonna say, "That's the closest anyone's ever got, stud." And I'm gonna pull a rose and leave it on his chest while he's gurgling, and then stand up, look over to the gravedigger and toss him like a coin and say, "Dig him one, a nice one, on a hill."
See, as you turn, the camera in close up catches the silvery metal of salvation, and we catch a heavenly detail in its engravings. What is that detail? And add it under the list of salvation.
It is an angel falling, much like the way that Jackie fell down the barrel.
Jimmy Pike is now dead. All right, everyone. Let's paint the scene about the Wounded Knight. We'll do the extra harvest of the Wounded Knight. People do not always reap what they sow during the season of the Wounded Knight. During the harvest, what strange extra does a homesteader pull from the ground? What do they do with what they have found?
I think that one of the homesteaders they're like trying to harvest a root vegetable. And as they pull it up, there is a skull with silver teeth. And they keep pulling, and it's damn near a full skeleton, all connected with roots that are dark red. I think maybe they sell the teeth. They're silver.
The corn, sometimes the corn that they harvest, and when they shuck the corn, that instead of being yellow or brown or even dark purple, the corn it's blood red, and they take it and they let it dry out and they put it. They don't eat it. The ones that are blood red, they take them and they put them in a jar. And a lot of farmers label it the blood of ghosts.
because of how much flooding there has been within the past few months. Typical things aren't grown that aren't meant to be grown in Texas are being grown. There is a decently sized rice field growing from the marsh effectively. The decaying corpses in the water provide excellent fertilizer.
And I think this wounded night, we see a random person just going through and collecting their harvest, and one of their tills hits the ground and it makes a weird noise. And they pick it up and they have on the edge of it a bank bag of money from the Ghost Riders of Sawtooth Ridge. Probably some of their nefarious findings, their takings that they had buried in somebody's yard for later, and they never quite got to get it.
Love it. All right. We have to answer this question on Clear Springs if you're intending to make an attempt to get it in. It's a complexity 4 of how can the river be stopped from harming the living. You have 6 clues. However, one of them is locked and was not ever pursued, so is unavailable for use. I will clear that one off because we never followed up on the Clear Spring citizen that was buried in El Paso, which is fine. It gives us 5 clues to work with. Plus, we have the Mask of Bargaining available on this one as well. Let's review these clues real fast. Various newspaper clippings from Lady Antonia, pending project in Clear Springs, a bank that was never completed, a weather vane pointed in the wrong direction in Clear Springs, photograph of original Clear Springs citizens standing in front of the mission with a scratched out face. This was on Annette Shields' wall, the Bloody Rosary, and then a dream of Jackie buried beneath the grapes. How can the river be stopped from harming the living? When you answer this, you'll resolve the threat by taking coercive or violent action to put the town to rest permanently. Who's got a theory?
I kind of have the beginnings of one, unless somebody else does. Mine is that the person that is scratched out, they're dead, but they were the person that was building the bank, and they're and I think we can just associate the fact that Ms. Shields didn't like them, and the fact that they were working on a bank, that they're pretty like greedy. There's some greed thing going on there, and they were using I think the grapes in the vineyards.
And I also just to clarify, I misspoke. It's not it's not the river be stopped. It's the town be stopped. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah. But still, it's the same. I think what I'm setting up is that this person is the like ringleader, and if you can take out the ringleader who wanted to build the bank and all that, then the whole town it'll collapse.
That like the entire thing is basically built on the back of like one person's like ambition and greed, and constantly making bargains and deals to try and you can't take it with you.
Yeah. I'm only saying that because Diamond Dave himself has his own chains that he's bound to with greed. So
yes, I was like, it's like another sort of like Scrooge thing where the Diamond Dave is not unique in this. Like it's a thing.
Oh, every town's got one.
Every town's got one.
Yeah.
Yes, I see your finger.
The Bloody Rosary on the road to Clear Springs. Jackie made an offhand comment, just making an offhand comment, did not realize how connected it was. But maybe this person that had the bank was utilizing the mission religion, a Bloody Rosary, to make that happen, to will these things into happen, forcing these people kind of. And so that this dead, that's why they're assaulting like the mission and everything like that, wanting to take it over, because it's almost like revenge, maybe.
Yeah, and just as a reminder of like a detail from this threat, since it's been a while, is that, I mean, basically like the Socorro mission was here first. It transformed the natural wetlands into arable grounds. And then farmers followed and built the town of Clear Springs around it. And then just like disasters of like flooding and rain and storms destroyed the town and killed most of its people. So it's like entirely plausible that like, yeah, like you had some shit happen, and unfinished business and all that.
Yeah, it like the sort of weather vane still represents like the contention between like the people of the town with the natural world just forcing its will upon it, and that's why like it's this sort of contention of like, since you will not rest, I will, the river will flood, the river will destroy, the river will take your bodies and retch them out on display for
What if
everyone.
what if the weather vane specifically points in the direction, because it doesn't point with the wind. It does not point with the wind. It points in the wrong direction. What if it's pointing in the direction of like the banker of like or rather not necessarily, because it's like I think it's fair to say that the banker is not a single spirit. It is like rooted in the town.
It's like the concept,
but like it's like the heart of the town is where the weather vane points to, because when the storms destroyed the town, the wind was blowing in a certain direction, and that is where, you know, it is locked into position of where like the heart is, from where like the roots took hold.
Yes.
Wes, you opened your mouth at one point. It looked like you had thoughts.
I just like the idea of this banker ghost, almost Scrooge, like you know, like A Christmas Carol, like with Marley with the chains, but instead of the chains being wrapped around him, it's the chains extending out in the hearts of the townspeople, almost floating behind or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really fucking
They're
good.
so rooted and attached to greed and money and everything that their very hearts are like chained to this banker.
Oh, they effectively owned everyone in the town. Like, I mean, they basically paid everyone's bills. Like, you know.
I would also throw out that the chains may be actually grapevines or something.
Well, yeah, because like that's another detail of just being like,
that's beautiful.
Literally, it could literally be beneath the ground. I don't know, like
maybe it's where Diamond Dave envisioned Jackie being buried, like the Rat King of grapes and greed, like Wes just typed, like, and that the heart of it, where the weather vane's pointing, is exactly where Diamond Dave had a dream about Jackie being buried.
Oh, that's fun. This theory does a really good job of like kind of explaining the situation. But let's go back to the actual question. And now, how can it be stopped from harming the living?
I think
gotta put down that ghost.
Baby.
Yeah, cut it out.
Take over. Clear
Love
it
it.
out.
Take out that ghost.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Right through the heart.
Yeah, you have to remove the ghost's power by either coercing them to be beneath someone else or just straight up destroying them.
Yep. I love it. So, who would like to make the roll? It's got to be, I think it has to be Graves, because Mother Ruth is no longer here.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask B. Narr to do it. It's a 2d6 plus 1. And remember, you do have the Mask of Bargaining left. So when in doubt,
I dropped a dice, so we're gonna have to roll one twice, because I don't know where my other ones are. So we've got a 4 and a 3. That's a 7.
Plus 1.
Plus 1. That's an 8.
An 8. So it is correct, but there will be an occult complication, or pursuing it will be more dangerous, unless you want to mark the Mask of Bargaining and bump it up to a 10.
Who wants to mark the Mask of Bargaining with me?
All right. Each hunter narrates a flashback to a time when they tried to beg or bargain away a hard, inevitable truth. We'll think on that. I don't think we're going to have the time to do the night phase today, because we're like 20 minutes out. So I think what we'll do is we'll have a very, very fast night phase at the start of next session, and then we can dive directly into the confrontation from there, if that sounds good with everyone. Your theory is correct. Good job. I will make a note.
Please do, because I'll forget.
Banker in the vineyard. Just make a note. Banker in the vineyard. Let's finish off the night phase then. Or not the night phase, sorry. Let's finish up the dusk phase. Everything short of setting up our actions to come and introducing the unseen, which we'll do at the start of next time. Did we have any Janus mask prompts aside from the Mask of Bargaining that people owed? I can't remember if we marked any masks during the siege that we didn't resolve yet. Because I don't see any of them marked.
No.
And Graves is all current on yours.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I think we're good then. Then in that case, let's go to stars and wishes.
Okay.
Holy shit. Yeah.
Yeah. You want to go? I just heard you say holy shit.
No, you go.
Because my thought is also holy shit. Alex, you really said season finale. Season finale. All of you said that. All of you were like, all right, y'all, last 2 to 3 episodes, shit's going down, and it's going down so crazy, so hard. Oh my God. I'm just obsessed. I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with everybody here. Jackie, hello, you beautiful bastard. I agree. I think it was Alex who said, I can't believe you fucking introduced this character with 2 to 3 episodes to go. I'm so mad. He's really great. He's great. I'm in love with him. He's horrible. Like, what a choice to be the bootstrapper's brother and really just do this. Like, it's fascinating. Like, I really like your Charlie Prince angle. Like, that galaxy brain shit. I'm such a clear picture. The pulling out the roses thing more than once, the killing Jimmy Pike with flash paper and having him shoot through the brim of your hat. Oh, oh, oh.
It's a show. You got to put on a show.
It's a show, baby. The Panther little oh my God. And the way that you and Diamond Dave interact, it feels so right. It feels like a fleshing out of the world. And I have to this is a double star for you and Daniel, because you have both had 2 characters now in this show. And you do it in such a way that feels like it is just an organic extension of the world. It doesn't ever feel like there's a whole new angle being introduced that was not set up prior. Like, it is so beautiful. It's so indicative of your ability to storytell. And I just really want to give you both stars for that, of fleshing out this world in such a way that feels really right. And Jackie swooping in and being, what did you say in the chat? 1 year younger than Diamond Dave? Like,
we're Irish twins.
That's like astounding. And it's just, it really tickles me. And I really think that this added a vibe to this finale that is, I think it's very powerful. It's very powerful. And I'm so excited to see how far you push this new character, like, in these last bits, because you have so much room to play. Like, I'm very excited to see what Jackie does. Oh my gosh. And even though I see Diamond Dave with a phone, I can still I'm still gonna give you stars real quick, because oh my God.
I was snowing and I thought school was gonna get canceled. They just canceled after school events, so I'm good. Sorry.
Amazing. Okay, don't apologize. I just didn't know if you were going to have to leave or not, because I did know that was a thing. But oh my God. I think I like preempted this star. I'm gonna really hit it hard this time. As soon as you got rid of On My Best Behavior, you were a little shit. You were like, instantly, all right, I'm gonna be an asshole in like such a fun way. Like, I've always said it's really hard for me to dislike Diamond Dave. I can't dislike him, but he is a little asshole. I love him so much. Like, everybody else on the Vigilance Committee is incompetent now. I'm gonna start my own Vigilance Committee, Illuminati Committee, a subcommittee to the committee. And like, that's the funniest option you could have done. That's like so good. The fact that you were like, oh no, we are going to like use this train. They don't have a train yet, which I think is kind of fucked up of them to not have a train for us, which is why I don't like them. Not because they're terrible, like just because they're not helping you and your business ventures. I love it. Like, just astounding bootstrapper work. Astounding. And like I said, I really love the vibe between Diamond Dave and Jackie. It feels really light. They're right. They're like 2 peas in a pod. They really are. They're just like 2 little shits that I can't help but like because I like bad guys. And I'm starting to think maybe we're the bad guys. I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned that we're maybe not the good guys because now we have Andrew Harrington, which I really love you doing the Del Sol thing at the beginning. That was so fun. And the thing between you and Alex specifically with the sun mask, like Lady Antonia with this, that was a cool choice to back down. And then El Paso's gonna pay for this. What do you mean? That's crazy. You're the marshal. Like, oh, wow. Wow. Like, as soon as you said that, I was like, what? Like, that's so crazy. Like, the marshal, you've always played him as like this, like, he's not an antagonist, but he's not a good person. Like, and now I think there you've slid right into the natural conclusion of how Andrew Harrington is, like how he is as a person, and your backstory, the way what I know of it and what you said of it. It's like this was an inevitable slide down into being a villain, and it's so fun. It tickles me. I love it. Everybody here sucks, and it's so good. Everybody here sucks. Like it's just, except Lady Antonia, Alex, who is a delight. She delights me. She does kind of suck. Like, I like that you were like, why should I give a shit? Like, that's so good. Props to that whole meeting, like with Diamond Dave and fucking the boyfriend, Andrew Harrington's boyfriend, Dr. Clarkson, and Lady Antonia, and I think it was Thalia or Thelma, a TH name. Thalia. Okay. Like, astounding work. That was so fun. It was very intense. Also started the peaches. The single can of peaches was very funny. That was very funny, Daniel. But like this Lady Antonia really like bringing up this like this powerhouse energy into here that's like, it feels like she has her own driving force and she is driving her own narrative. Like, and her bringing out the sun mask was crazy, Alex. That was crazy. I loved it. I was not expecting it. I knew she was going to confront Del Sol because, like, how could she not? That would be wild after all of this. Didn't expect you to do that. You really got me. That was super cool. Yes. And and the Jimmy Pike thing between Jackie and Jimmy was just, both times I was like, that was so fun. And Wes, you calling him stud just got me every time. I was like, it's slightly homoerotic, and that's my favorite kind of duel. I'm just utterly delighted. I'm excited to see how this ends. Honestly, I'm just really excited to see how this ends.
I will go next. I will be brief. Because B got a lot of my stars that rat fuck. Not a star for this campaign, but I just want to mention here on recording that this morning I woke up and I couldn't help but think of one of my favorite things I've ever heard Wes say to be in regards to the character of Faulkner from the Silt Verses, which is a country fried Artemis Fowl. It's just, I thought about that this morning and just wanted to share that again because I thought that was a fucking delightful moment. No, this was great. This was a lot of fun. Big star to Daniel for setting up this sort of like oversight of the Vigilance Committee, this secret, like as you call it, like the Illuminati effectively. As I said off recording, kind of blew my mind because as we've seen in White Mountain Rescue, with Prism, we know that they have somewhat of at least, international presence, at least in the US and London, because Lady Antonia is in charge of both. But, we had her show up here and that was kind of the extent of the Prism connection. And so having this come up, the implication being that it's like, oh, this is like the seed that later sprouts into like the international committee that becomes Prism. I think that was a really fucking cool detail, and I absolutely loved just watching that play out. Chaotic, loved how you played Del Sol in long form. I caught several little cheeky moments from you, in addition to utilizing the line, "I'm not one to kiss and tell," but also, you sneaky fucker, while you were talking to Diamond Dave, you made use of the most beloved conversation thing, which is that when Del Sol insists the most beloved calls them by their first name and never expounds on what that means. I Great moment. Wes, I fucking love Jackie. Like, again, it's already been said. I've said it. Bia said it. It is tragic that they are entering the narrative this late in the game because he is fucking terrible. I love him. He's insufferable. And also, you're doing a great job of playing him. Duel scene, beautifully narrated. The flash paper detail was insane. Loved that. I was sitting over here being like, damn, the close-up magic is a really cool like vice with like the rows and doing other like little acts of subtle like ledger domain. Didn't even think about like how that might apply to like dirty duel tactics, and having you do like, as someone who like used flash paper in like a stage show before, like, yeah, that would work. He quite literally has a trick up his sleeve, and that was sick. That was fucking rad as hell. And B, I am so excited to see what's going to come of not just your endeavors in Clear Springs, but of the overall ending, because you have one Mask of the Past left and then the Blood-Soaked Portal. And so, oh boy, I am riding the knife's edge here. But no, overall, really fun session. I definitely am glad that we went with the idea of doing like this kind of in between session of like after the siege, before the confrontation. It felt like it set the tone and the narrative. It put pieces into place that I think are necessary. And it has me now questioning if in any game of the Between I run after the siege, even in the new rules, if I might still put in an extra day night cycle between the end and the confrontation. It makes more sense in a game like El Paso, where it's like there aren't more masterminds. This is the story. It makes sense for that one. So like for something like the normal, the Between, maybe not, but I really like how this played out today. So I had a great time. And wishes, I'm terrified of what Andrew Harrington's going to do next. Chaotic, at your discretion, by the way, because you did like effectively agree to like be stripped of some abilities and stuff. I will let you choose another playbook move from your options, because you lost the cellmate, and I mean, so it would only be fair if you grabbed one of the other ones. So anyway, something to consider. That is me.
I can go next. I'm going to say, since we started with Wes and Jackie, I think we need a spinoff game. I think that there needs to be a spinoff Jackie game because he doesn't tumble into town. He slinks. That was a great line. And I like when he came into the office. Well, I'm here. That was great entrance. Queen of Hearts was very touching for Mother Ruth. And yeah, the Black Magic gunslinger is so Deadlands. Big star. B. Star for going with the really mean horse. And star for Wes for running with it. And I don't know, Graves just sounds so world weary to me. And with the whole "I'm not here to teach anybody anything," it just seems like I kind of think the Inevitable's like done with this, and that's really great moving into the finale. Another star for Wes and B for wearing black and white with me wearing gray. I appreciate that. Chaotic Del Sol. Chaotic, your version of Del Sol reminds me a little bit of the Chamberlain from the Dark Crystal.
Mm.
No.
Oh, it totally. I was getting some.
Why is Lady Antonia so mean to Marshall?
I was getting some Chamberlain vibes, and I see that Alex did too. Those, and I also liked that they also saw the Lady in Gold. That was a really cool little That was a cool touch.
Great fucking detail. That was awesome.
And for Alex, so many side characters. I started a list: Dudley, Jimmy, Dr. Carson, Thalia, Antonia. I mean, it was just so many side characters. Um, and I liked as a keeper because we don't have the kid that for that long. I'm glad that you kind of goaded him into that his curse with Jimmy. The sun mask. I did not see that being pulled out, but I'm glad you did. And I've shit scarier stuff than you. I like that too.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
sure.
another star for chaotic. We're taking a shot at Lady Antonia. Yeah, that was pushing the boundaries.
I want to add a note real quick on the matter of the sun mask scene is that I had that idea when we stepped away for a quick break because I realized, oh yeah, that's right. Lady Antonia was the one who prompted the idea of being like, maybe we let this guy out to help us. And also, as you know, minor spoiler for White Mountain Rescue for those who haven't watched it, we know that she has the sun mask. And so I was like, what if she tries to use it to now like rechain it to her as opposed to Harrington? I was like, ooh, Lady Antonia can be manipulative like that. I like that. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's why that's where that came from.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of figured like behind the sort of her calling me to the hotel, like it was not going to be good. And either like she was going to swear Harrington into service or take Del Sol. So like those are the two options. And I figured like, oh, maybe I could try to wheel and deal with the corset, but that really seems to be like out of her purview right now in terms of what she wants for El Paso. However, yeah, right, I have plans. And I think like I'm going to have to narrate the mask of bargaining at the start of the session to make sure everybody's clear on what those plans are. Because like, yeah, for the past few weeks, Harrington has been effectively shotgunning his body. He's been seeing what Delso is doing and trying to give his advice, but Delso being a little freaky that he is, he's doing other things on him. He's like, I tried to make things right with your Bedeau or whatever it is, this dude that is living with you. However, like I don't know facial expressions. Um, and Harrington's like, God damn it, I'm gonna have to apologize if I can apologize down the line. However, like with like Lady Antonia, they was like, okay, maybe I know like she wanted to talk to you. Like you're gonna have to go talk to her. And like it's also was like, all right, Marshall, we're gonna go see what she wants. And with this just being ripped away from him, Harrington's just pissed. And especially with the idea of like, you're going to have to grow up. Harrington has an idea of what growing up means for him. And I don't think Lady Antonio knows what that means for him. Uh, I think this has already been sort of like established in various masks already, but like Harrington is the son of an undeniable.
Oh yes.
So yeah, he's I know you say additional move, but yeah, I'm I'm just thinking, does the custom move that he currently has still make sense for what's going on?
I will say it for your choice of thing, by the way, it's either you can pick a new move or you can rewrite your custom move. I think that's a fair trade-off. So
Yeah.
yeah. All right, that leaves Wes.
As soon as fucking DC Metropolitan Police roll up outside my fucking apartment with their fucking sirens. Yeah. No, this was so much fun. God, I fucking love being bad. I love just being an insufferable little fucking shit. And thank you all for giving me the proper room to do that. I was going back and forth between the charlatan and this one after a point because I was like, do I put Dallas's great grandfather into the game, or like great grandfather into the game with this little Swedish charlatan man selling self-help shit? No, we're gonna play the insufferable bastard that's the brother of a Diamond Dave. So star to Daniel for being such a wonderful and loving big brother, and for sending me right on the path where I need to be, just giving me a purpose in life. I think that's what Jackie's been looking for, is a purpose, and I think serving on the Vigilance Committee is great. Star to Alex for teeing up a great first rival for Jackie. Jimmy Pike is. I mean, he's not around for a long time, but I enjoyed Jimmy Pike as a character, and that's very much a shocking death of like I could see you getting like a mid-level like well-recognized TV actor to play Jimmy Pike, and you're like, oh fuck, he's gonna be around for a while, and then you have this piece of shit come in and be like, nah, not really. So thank you for giving me the room to be an insufferable bastard and setting that up, because that really um I love playing Slimy. I love playing Slimy. Graves. I start to you be for like your staunch like stoicism and like your willingness to be like, no, we're doing this the right way and everything. Because that gives you like you're like establishing, like you're like, no, I'm taking care of this, I'm serious, I'm focused on what things are going on, and that gave me the perfect avenue to be like, yes, we can reasonably, dramaturgically speaking, get me back to the town to do this. And it just fucking has me just like I'm fucking I'm outlaw pilled. I'm gunslinger Maxon. I'm thinking like as I like since last week I've been thinking about this guy and everything like that. And like the close-up magic thing, I was like, that's such like a fucking what like I like close-up magic, like people like get on my nerves sometimes. And so I was like, what is like one of the coolest but most annoying things I can make this guy do? And how can I make it evil? And so it's just I just have I have to think about pulling like fucking rope out of my mouth and everything like that kind of thing, card tricks, that kind of thing is very cool. Fucking star too, chaotic, fucking MVP, play of the game with your fucking Del Sol. Fucking just the separation scene was so fucking visceral and cool, and just like that moment of just like how dare you, and like almost like Andrew Harrington like being on the side of Del Sol, and being like in recognizing that what she's doing, it felt like to me as a viewer of like recognizing what she's doing is like fucking just like heinous, and like Harrington is a son of a bitch, but this woman is worse. And him recognizing that and being like, okay, well, I'm gonna be a fucking demon then. You wanna act like this? I'm gonna like, ooh, I'm your boogeyman, lady. And that's fucking terrifying of being like, you're gonna fucking rue the day you fucked over. Oh God, it's so good. Marshall. Also great. Yeah, the Del Sol, like your Del Sol, it felt like a tiger almost. And it's just like very like, oh, ah, I love it. 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 And then yeah, just like also started Daniel for that great scene with Lady Antonia. Just great stuff. I've had nothing but good TTRPG sessions this week, and that feels great. Gets me solid.
Great time of year for games.
Great time of year for games. Great time of year for games. Thank you for allowing me to wear my black hat again, too.
Thank you for gracing us with it.
Yeah.
Any other stars or wishes? Daniel, did you have something you want to say?
Yeah, we took it out, but originally the kid, when the kid's given an assignment by their sibling, they could do it, but they also had the option to do their interpretation of it,
Oh, that's fun.
which made the kid even like even more of a brat.
Mhm.
But I'm kind of glad we got rid of it, but it would have been fun to see with this character.
Yeah, that's true.
Don't kill him. Okay, I didn't kill him.
It's not a star or a wish. This is just me explaining something. So actually, when we wrap up the mastermind confrontation, same as we did for White Mountain Rescue, we're going to have our little post-campaign debrief conversation chat. A lot of things I want to talk about, there. I'm cards I've kept close to my chest. A lot of it does involve stuff I've hinted at regarding Del Sol. I have a lot of thoughts about that I feel like, okay, now that this game has happened, I can kind of talk a little bit more about like what has been going on in my brain. I'll touch on a couple things now, though, just because I think it really kind of is relevant to this session. Which is, if it wasn't clear, which it very well should be, in our version of the Brindleverse between campaigns, the Sun Mask itself is an object of power, as is classified by like Hargrave House and all that, and that Del Sol is clearly connected it to it in some way. This is canonical with the Brindleverse, and indeed, as was mentioned in White Mountain Rescue, this is because of events that happened there. To a degree, this is also canonical with an older version of the Between that I ran that involved one of Wes's old characters, but also the fact that Chaotix, that Harrington is descended from an undeniable that wasn't. Again, I had an undeniable in that same campaign. Speaks to a degree of friction that implies, the possibility of other worlds. And again, so it's like there's like a lot of stuff happening here, but at its core, with stuff with Del Sol and the Sun Mask, I think I've made it clear that I've alluded to the fact that the mask itself is an object of power, and that Del Sol is a fragment of something more. Mm-hmm. Hence why that's where it came from, of like, I am not Prometheus, I'm the liver. And when Lady Antonia just said, like, let Prometheus regrow his liver, like the implication being, I have thoughts that connect to like larger things. I'm not going to reveal them yet, but like, this is segueing into like, I'll give Chaotic real quick. You have played into Del Sol. Any part of me that may have been a little worried that I would have to like let go of the reins a little bit and maybe have some of my ideas change, completely out the window, because everything you've done with the character and you've built on has been even more inspiring. And so I am just delighted by how things shook out there, because really anything involving the Sun Mask stuff and Lady Antonia have kind of been the linchpins of like the connected anthology stuff we've talked about. So I'm really excited where things have shaken out.
Yeah.
Before we end, we are going to, I checked with everyone in the chat here. I do want to have a little bit of a conversation with everyone about the Reynolds' plot and kind of talk about that. Now, in the original rules for Ghosts of El Paso, much like the other, CFB games in their first editions, this is largely the keeper's territory of like filling it out of initial ideas. And I deliberately approached this campaign to not do that this time, knowing that we are slowly transitioning towards having like actual pre-baked confrontations, but also now that we've invented the mastermind question rules for the game, and based on stuff I've done with Jason, of like having this conversation as I mentioned earlier, about doing like kind of like an open forum discussion about that. And that's similarly what I want to do here. And we can have a bit more of a chat about this between sessions, but I definitely wanted to, since everyone said they were good to have some time to do so now, I want to kind of get this on recording, which is talking about what we think everything we've seen in the campaign thus far alludes to. Now, the deal with the Reynolds should be more than clear by now, but specifically, what they're planning to do is they are intending to derail the Black Train of the Dead, because that will allow Edward to remain in the land of the living. But El Paso will be destroyed in the process by them derailing the train. And so the overall like question that is attached to like in El Paso is like, how are Isabella and Edward going to try to derail the train of the dead? And that's kind of like what their plan is and like what they're putting into motion. Obviously, we saw the detail about Edward was trying to, kill the 3 witnesses because they rightfully so will probably complicate his life once he returns, given that they witnessed his hanging 12 years ago. But now the entire town of El Paso, it's all just a wash. But looking at the mastermind clues we found and just remembering the story details. I want to kind of like see if anyone has any thoughts about this. Because I have some of my own, but I do want to hear from the group. Let's look at the 12 mastermind clues we ended up gathering throughout the campaign. Obviously, they talked about, Edward and Isabel talking about bringing the trains to El Paso during the assemblage. The train whistle heard at midnight, which is on our sheet twice. So I wonder if that was a mistake, but it's okay. The note that was left for, I believe it was Mother Ruth. It was a note left for one of you. I think it was Mother Ruth because it was most beloved. That basically was like from an unknown senator telling her to get out of town before it's too late. There was the vision of a rope-strewn man hanging outside of a window. A man who was told of Graves' nature by the hanged man was protected from death by the wounded knight. A rattlesnake that was seen tied in the hangman's noose. The train whistle at midnight again. Edward Reynolds holds something over Clear Springs. I forgot about that one. That might be relevant to the resolution here. Isabella is much, much older than she's pretending to be. That's obviously on account of the fact that robbing the train of the dead every 6 years for several decades now has prolonged her life. Mr. Bird was talking very excitedly about the railroad business, the news articles about Edward's hanging, and tales of the black train that carries the dead. So we've gotten all these like signs that mostly point to just like the Reynolds and their nature of like Isabella being long lived and they're intending to do this, and Edward having this like, hanged man premonitions. But like we've heard the train whistle at midnight and we don't really know much about like what their plan is. So I'm kind of like interested in like what thoughts people have. Because to me, like, I don't know. I'm intrigued.
I have a couple that don't connect.
Sure.
One is about immortality and things like that, which explains why the inevitable is here. Like they really need to the inevitable to be here so that they can do their thing to cheat death. Okay.
Yeah.
But the other one is more thematic to our different campaigns, in that they're going to use the train, derail the train to open up another reality where they can go and be whatever they want to be, but at the sacrifice of El Paso. And so it's like they need all these people to die to open this portal to another reality. So that's my favorite one. They don't necessarily connect.
That's fun. I will say though, like on that, I like the idea that derailing the train will like force open throw wide the gates to the land of the dead. I don't think they're planning to go through there. I just think it is like the sheer destructive force of opening said thing will allow the dead to return as the living. Like it will allow people who are bound to that side can walk back through and be alive again.
It's kind of like Clear Springs was like their testing zone.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah.
That's what he holds over Clear Springs.
Yeah, that was like their test run, and now they know how to do it now.
Oh, so they definitely have some kind of involvement with the banker in some way.
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, like
that could have been where their initial cash injection was coming from with the Reynolds.
Oh shit! Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I really like that.
Yeah, I've been also like thinking about why Graves is still here, because like again, like it's implied through Mask of the Past that like one of your siblings trapped you here on Earth. And initially just saying in a joking manner, but like, and with like how much you have been able to summon your own siblings to the realm, like who else can do this? Who else is going to be doing this? Because like the Reynolds, they hold a lot of power both in life, but as Daniel was saying, like they also hold power in death as well. So like maybe they have been collaborating with your siblings.
It's
as to just see just sort of like, because like I think the siblings have like incentive to fast forward to the apocalypse.
It's worth noting. Two things. One, because I do like what you're talking about. It is worth noting, that like the one Mask of the Past we haven't seen yet from Graves is about how one of their siblings made a joke about how they would one day trap them on Earth. And again, nothing in this playbook answers like the why. So like in that flashback, we'll see a joke, but we don't necessarily know if that's true. I'm excited that there may be something there, obviously, and I would make sense of obviously like if you're the horseman and your purpose is kind of centered around the seals being broken and letting the end times begin, like someone trying to expedite the process. One thing I'll note, I can't remember if this was ever explicitly said by me, but it was a thing that I had on my page since session 1. It was literally our opening scene. Bartholomew Graves was shot at exactly the stroke of midnight when the Wounded Knight began.
Yeah.
Oh my God,
exactly when the season began.
About my own character.
Is when he was shot. Which leads to me, even though we solved the question of like who killed Bartholomew Graves, that was explicitly, like I was alluding to all the way back then, that is part of the reason why it was clearly some ritual of like killing someone at that exact moment allowed death to get bound here on the earth. And the idea is that the Reynolds wanted it to happen is makes complete sense.
Absolutely. Wes, I saw you getting real excited over
please.
there.
Yeah, so this is all headcanon and everything like that, but like
that's all this is.
That's all this is.
Yeah, but like okay, so the Reynolds, so the banker has his cash injection, but also we know that like the horseman, there's this cosmology going on right now and everything like that. And so the Reynolds as masterminds are probably just as much getting played, this whole kind of thing of like who's playing who, that's been a constant theme throughout this entire game. So what if El Paso was always destined to have the siege? The siege was always destined to happen. So that's wars. Clear Springs was famines. And famine made a deal with the Reynolds. That whole like, so what if like Graves was incorporated, like Graves was incorporated into the thing that happened with Clear Springs as a little thing that famine was doing on the extra, on the sly, not telling the Reynolds about it. That was a whole thing of like one of the other horsemen, that kind of thing of like their attachment with like them being involved with this is all high level shit, like what's behind the throne and everything like that. But like, what if like, yes, Graves was just there in Clear Springs one night visiting somebody or something like that, or doing something that Graves was doing because he was a shifty fuck, and like was just like wrong place, wrong time. Famine's like, you'll do, and collared him and like is like, yeah, I'm gonna slide you into what's happening here. And so because our own machinations are gonna be happening, the Reynolds can do whatever the fuck we want. We have our own reasons for doing stuff. That's in my head. That's what's going on in my brain.
Oh, so like, that makes significantly more sense. Where it's like, no, you know what? No, in no fucking reality are the horsemen gonna be working with the Reynolds, but they are. If this is like what's going on, like it's tangential. It's like, oh, we're gonna play off of this situation. Like the Reynolds are already doing their thing, and if we get involved, it'll. So again, I don't want to like reveal anything hard because again, this is B's whole ordeal here.
No.
But like,
it's open to the table, bud.
The implication that famine, pestilence, and war are all in on it, and like are angling to start the apocalypse like sooner. Paints a comment War made in the last session a little differently when he said, "You're the glue that holds our family together."
It sure does. Like I want
the ties that bind us from our duty.
Like I love that. Like I want to say, Death's backstory is open to the table because it affects this narrative, and I'm gonna yes and whatever the fuck y'all do because that's my favorite thing to do, and I love this shit. I think like to tie in why this incarnation of Death, the Death currently is like fighting against what is going on, is probably because Death is like one of the only things that churns on no matter what's happening, like in the world. Like famine, war, and pestilence are big things. They're big, scary, bad things, and death always follows. But death happens even when there's not war or famine or pestilence, and is very content for things to cycle on until eternity. Like that makes sense that this is the one sibling they were like, we're just gonna like sort of drag you along. Like, nah, come on, buddy. Come on. Like, we're doing an activity. You gotta be here. You can't keep ditching. Like, that being why they had to do what they did. World Wars are getting teed up too.
Yes, it's a handful of decades off. Okay, so I will say that is an exciting thought. Bringing it back to the scope of the Reynolds. I really did like the idea of like them getting involved in Clear Springs, some kind of test run. Like, I mean, because we know that Edward has some kind of influence over the area. That, you know, especially if they're planning to do something in El Paso, and they've done experimentations with like fucking with the dead.
Like a nuclear test site.
Right? Yeah, it's like kind of like that. So it's like, how does all of this we've talked about segue or like fit into them derailing the train of the dead? Like, how do you derail the black train? And you know, when they do so, it's gonna doing so will break open a portal to the land of the dead. It's gonna destroy El Paso in the process. It'll be catastrophic for the area. But you know, it's not like it's going to end the world or anything on their side of things. But you know,
I think because it's
stacking the deck a little bit.
It runs on like magic rails, anyways. I think the way to derail it is just to crash it, and there may be something to crash it into. Whether it's I don't mean to keep picking on the inevitable, but crash it into the inevitable, or
what if because as we know, the train is filled with the souls of the dead who are going to be ferried. You know, they make this journey every on routine every 6 years. What if because of I mean the bounty hunter became a servant of them as well, and you know they did the siege, like, and we have all the stuff like all like the hanged man iconography, and you know the warning for Mother Ruth to get out of town before it's too late. Like, what if they've actually been like killing a lot of people, which we, you know, they did kill in the siege, and they, you know, we knew they were angling for targets, but people have died, and the bounty hunter can even like, you know, they may have exploited his services to even kill more people. What if they're like trying to overload the train a little bit because because maybe there's like a loophole or something, you know, where it's like some souls can be used as fuel for the train. And like the idea being that if they like overpack the train and overclock it, like really run it hot on like souls that they've sacrificed and like brought into it, they can just fucking derail it as it comes around the bend of El Paso.
Oh my, I'm obsessed with the idea of souls being used as fuel for the black train. That's so vicious.
It also ties into Unsinkable a little bit too, as well.
Oh, does
because
it?
the
Okay.
mastermind of Unsinkable is the whole purpose of the ship is using those souls for something. That's what you figure out in the game. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because there's already been there's 3 ships that were commissioned by the Black Star Line. One has already been lost at sea. You're on the second one that's gone out, and there's a third one planned to being launched. So, yeah.
So I'm going to zoom out for a moment and let's see if this is what we agree with, right? The Reynolds have been trying over the last 6 years, fiddling around with like this plan in motion to derail the train, to return Edward from the land of the dead, to let him walk again as a member of the living. They had some stuff that they were clearly involved in the Clear Spring stuff, got to do some of their testing with soul binding and stuff like that, like all this, like, you know, spirit magic in a similar way to the train does. And in that practice, they were able to discover that the souls can be used as like as an anchor, as a power source. And through a great deal of deaths, through just other experiments on their own, they have figured out a way to effectively overpower the engines, to run it way too hot and way too dangerous, that when it comes around the bend and as it's passing near El Paso again, it will throw it from the tracks. The force of the train of the dead derailing will crack open a gate to the land of the dead that spirits can walk through. The force of such an event will destroy El Paso. And part of this plan, though, and that's all of what they've been working towards. But meanwhile, they themselves have played a part in another plan, which is to say that the horsemen have had machinations of their own involving their sibling. And so one of them perhaps seeded the ideas to the Reynolds about the binding. Didn't do it themselves, because we know that, you know, Graves was killed by someone else, and again, leaving some of the stuff vague here, but like, but the horsemen themselves are working at some completely different angle. This is all just secondary, and the horsemen are looking to advance the clock a bit on the end of days. Maybe that much we don't really know, but we do know for sure that it's like the horsemen are working against their sibling in subtle ways, unless any of us have differing thoughts on that. And Wes is brain blasting something right now.
Yes, I know. I see them just having some sort of revelation.
It's almost like this moment, like they're trying to do it here, and like they realize that it's too small, and so World War One is an escalation of that. Like it's almost like
makes sense. World War. I mean,
World War's getting teed up. It's like almost like yeah.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
I mean, like we like, regardless of how things shake out in this campaign, like yeah, like
World War One's gonna happen.
World War One's gonna happen, and like that
would be crazy if it didn't.
And
there's some direct stuff alluding to that, and unthinkable.
And I'm fine, and I'm fine leaving a large chunk of this unanswered to just say that it's like the horsemen have some kind of plan, that they've wanted to, you know, fuck with death for some reason. But here's the thing, right? Is like death being bound to the host is, I mean, like once the host is destroyed, death goes back to normal. So it's not like, so like it's really whatever this involves, I think it wasn't a long-term plan. It was intended as a distraction to keep you busy while your siblings were up to something over the course of a couple months. Like something is like happening, and that like they just needed you out of the way for a bit. So I don't know, maybe that's something to toy around with. I like this a lot.
I like this angle.
Now, you know what the funny thing is again, with how the pieces fall together, is when you consider that like underlying this whole story is horsemen trying to bring about the end of days a little bit closer. Name of our campaign is Near Enough to Hell.
God.
And so it continues to line up. Everything continues to line up.
Oh, it's perfect.
Yeah, and looking at the wider Brindleverse already, we're looking at the timeline stuff. Yeah, because Anyway,
oh my God,
sick. This gave me a lot to work with. I'm gonna go write the confrontation.
Fuck yeah.
And over the next week, I'm very excited for us to be approaching the finale of this. And yeah, so I guess for now, goodbye.
Bye.